Hi guys, Cinematic Recapped here. Before we start, warning. Spoilers ahead. Today, I'm gonna explain an American science fiction and mystery movie, called Boss Level. The movie starts with the 139th attempt of Roy Pulver, a retired Delta Force soldier in Atlanta, who has been somehow stuck in a time loop. The time loop resets every time he dies, so he has learned the day's patterns through many previous loops. Every morning at 7 a.m., he wakes up in a bed next to a woman named Alice, who screams and runs away as an assassin breaks into his apartment and tries to kill them both. Roy handles everything in a stunning way, dodging the assassin's precise movement in self-defense. After that, a chopper with a gunman flies outside his window and opens fire on his apartment, killing the first assassin because he is mistaken for Roy. While the gunman continues shooting wildly into the apartment, Roy slumps against the couch and looks at a photo of his estranged wife, Gemma. As the chopper crashes through the window, Roy jumps off the window to land on a truck filled with sand, which he notes that he had missed 22 times before he started to get it right. He then hijacks a car and drives to escape two more assassins in a minivan, both of whom he refers to as Pam and Esmeralda. Roy drives recklessly throughout the city as those assassins chase him and shoot him relentlessly. Unfortunately this time, he forgets to dodge an oncoming truck, which he crashes into and eventually dies after flying through the window. Because of this, the day restarts again. As previously known, only a few details change during each loop, depending on what Roy decides to or forgets to do. Furthermore, the biggest problem is no matter how many assassins he evades, more keeps showing up. Besides to the first four assassins, there is a swordswoman named Guan Yin, who always kills Roy with a sword. Kaboom, a dwarf who always uses explosives when chasing after him. The German twins. And also a creepy man named Smiley who impales Roy with a harpoon and drags him through the city with his truck. Strangely, there is even a guy that looks a lot like him, whom he refers to as Roy number 2. During the 48th attempt, Roy attempts to contact Gemma at her company to find what is going on, but her phone is answered by her boss, Colonel Clive Venner. The colonel tells him that his estranged wife died in an accident, but Roy believes that he has killed her. Unluckily, Roy has never had the chance to live long enough to find out why Gemma was killed. After one attempt when he kills Pam and Esmeralda in a warehouse, he goes to a diner run by his bartender friend, Jake. He immediately orders 2 large bottles of Baijiu, and starts to get drunk while constantly listening to a man named Dave who sits next to him and talks about tedious anecdotes. Shortly after, Roy notices Dai Feng, a world champion sword master who always comes at the same time. He then states that he could not find a way to survive a final attack at 12:47 p.m., because the assassins always manage to kill him somehow. As he gets shot at the diner, Roy remembers the day before the time loop started. He visits Gemma at her workplace, Dai Now Labs, after she asked him to come on the pretext of a job interview. The two argue about their son, Joe, whom Gemma has led to believe that Roy is just a family friend. During their conversation, Venter and his henchman, Brett, are watching them through the security cameras. On the other side, Roy curiously asks her about the strange machine she is working on, which she claims can control time and space, and can even destroy the planet if used improperly. Brett suddenly interrupts them and takes Roy's resume, saying that they are not hiring. Roy is surprised to hear that, but Gemma tells Brett to leave before he can say more. After getting Roy's resume, Venter says that someone like Roy can figure out their high-secret project, so he orders the security guard to escort him out of the laboratory. But before Roy leaves, Gemma obtains a sample of his hair and tells him that she has sent an important birthday present, and that he must remember the word Osiris. Meanwhile, Venter asks Gemma to come to his office and scolds her for inviting Roy to the laboratory. At night, Roy goes to a bar where he first meets Alice, who works as a dental hygienist. When Alice goes to the bathroom, he gets a call from Gemma, telling him that she may have to do something drastic and she needs his help, but Venter discovers the call and decides to cut off their line before she can continue her words. Instead of calling her back, Roy chooses to go back to his apartment and spends the night with Alice. On the other hand, Gemma puts Roy's hair and blood in a tube which she inserts inside the machine she has been working on. At the same time, Venter watches her action and sends Brett after her. It was Roy's last day living a normal life before the time loop started. On the 141st attempt, Roy finally realizes that he has never checked the birthday present Gemma had sent him before, thus he opens the package to find a book titled The Mythology of Isid and Osiris, with a message from Gemma on the back cover that says time waits for no man. As he continues to read the book, Roy forgets about the incoming attack on his apartment, causing him to die again in the next 2 attempts. On the 144th attempt, he finally manages to escape with the book, but then misses Jake's diner because he is taking the wrong path. Because of this, he ends up at Underground Atlanta, where he continues to read the book, but he still does not understand what the book has to do with anything. A few moments later, he accidentally sees Joe buying something from an older kid. Roy follows his son into an arcade where an esports tournament is being held. However, Roy causes the game screens to glitch whenever he walks near them. He then approaches Joe, who says that he has ditched school for the tournament, and that he was just trading card games with the older kid. Roy spends the day with Joe, but he does not mention a word about Gemma's death. When they leave the building, Roy notices it is now 12:50 p.m., which means he has lived longer than before. As he analyzes what he has done differently in the current loop, he finally realizes someone must have put a tracker on him, and that the metal walls of the diner and the underground location of the building have blocked the tracker's signal. Meanwhile, the assassins have arrived to kill him, and Roy uses his body to protect Joe, telling him that he is his father as he dies again. On his next attempt, he asks the assassin who has broken into his apartment about the tracker, but the man still does not tell him anything about it. Afterwards, Roy arrives at Jake's diner and tries to extract the tracker from his anus in the bathroom, until Dave tells him that the tracker might be in one of his teeth. This brings back his memory of Alice, who had previously put him to sleep on a dentist chair as Brett watched the proceedings. After getting drunk from drinking Baijiu, Roy goes to the bathroom with Dave to find the tracker. He eventually pulls out 2 of his teeth and finally finds it, just before he is killed by Roy number 2. In the next loop, Roy immediately interrogates Alice, who tells him that she has been paid by Brett to implant the tracker. He then follows his activities as usual until he arrives at Jake's diner, where he tries to extract his tooth with the tracker, and then uses it as a trap. First, he lures Pam to an abandoned building to ask who hired her, but she refuses to say anything, so Roy kills her with her own gun. He then lures Smiley and kills him with his own harpoon and truck. Long story short, he eventually kills the remaining assassins with their own weapon, as his main goal now is to take revenge on Brett and Venter. The next scene shows a series of loops about Roy's attempts to sneak into Dynal Labs, such as sending his car with bombs and pretending to be Roy number 2. Stealing his ID allows him to get inside, but once again, it takes him a few tries until he manages to learn all the tricks to evade the guards and security cameras. On the 150th attempt, Roy finally reaches Guan Yin, who dodges bullets with ease and always decapitates him. At one point, he does not die quickly from his wounds, so Venter finds him, revealing that Gemma's project is called the Osiris Spindle, a quantum device capable of rewriting history, which Venter plans to use to set himself up as the world's dictator. Venter also admits he was responsible for Gemma's death after an argument the night before. As she had started the machine and no one else knows how to operate it, Venter warns Roy that the Osiris Spindle will destroy the world if it runs too long. On further loops, Roy makes the connection to the Egyptian god of the afterlife, Osiris, and he finally realizes 2 things: that Venter does not know the machine is now working, and Gemma must have placed him on purpose in the Osiris Spindle, so he can become Osiris to stop Venter and his plans. After learning that Gemma still believed in him, Roy excitedly starts his routines with a new plan. At Jake's diner, he seeks help from Dai Feng, who teaches him sword lessons. With his new skill, Roy manages to kill Guan Yin during a duel on his 200th attempt. Not long after, it is Brett's turn to die after Roy stabs him in the forehead with a sword. He ends up confronting Venter, who implies Joe may be in danger, before he is killed by Roy. After learning the assassins were sent to kill his son during his infiltration, Roy gets back into his car and rushes to Underground Atlanta, only to find he arrives too late. As he mourns over Joe, a bright light appears on the horizon, indicating that the Osiris Spindle is going to explode and destroy the world, just as Venter had previously warned him. Since he thinks there is no point in doing anything, Roy spends several loops in a despondent state, thinking that everyone is going to die no matter what. However, he finally comes out of his depression and decides to spend the rest of his times with Joe. He returns to the arcade and bonds with him through lots of fun activities, spending time as father and son like they never did before. They keep repeating the same routines until the Osiris Spindle explodes in every loops. He also wants to tell Joe that he is his father, but he is too afraid to do so. On the 249th attempt, Roy brings up the subject of Gemma's work, and Joe reveals that he got a voicemail from his mother earlier that day after she did not return home last night. Roy immediately checks his son's phone and learns that Gemma was still alive when he woke up in the morning. After realizing that he could save her life, Roy sneaks back into the Dynal Labs and shoots both Venter and Brett while demanding answers. Looking at the security cameras, he finally learns the exact time of Gemma's death, which is 14 minutes after he wakes up. On the next attempt, Roy kills the first assassin as usual, but this time, He jumps onto the chopper and throws the gunman out, threatening the pilot to fly to Dynal Labs as quickly as possible. Once there, he takes the gunman's machine gun with him as he sneaks inside the laboratory and uses it to kill all the waiting assassins. Roy eventually makes his way to Gemma's room and kills Venter and Brett before they kill Gemma. Soon, Roy tells her that he has been spending his loops with Joe, and that he has seen the end of the world. On the other hand, Gemma explains theoretically that Roy has to enter the Osiris spindle in order to reset it and prevent the world from ending, so that time would return to normal. However, she is still not 100% sure about it, as this is the first time she managed to get the machine working. She simply warns Roy that if the time really continues, it may cause him to cease from existing. Despite all that, Roy kisses Gemma before confidently entering the spindle. In the end, Gemma looks in awe as he apparently survives the reset and restarts the day one last time. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.